Now look, the theme of these two talks is not lust, it's sex. Not the evil, but the good. And we've seen this weekend 3 good gifts from God. We saw last night money. What a good gift. That enables the feeding of millions. That supports thousands of missionaries. That supports many Christian enterprises. It's such a good gift. And power, what a good gift power is. I was speaking last month to John Anderson, the ex-Deputy Prime Minister who spoke here some years ago. He was asked, John, next to the Lord Jesus, who's the man you respect most? He said in a flicker, William Wilberforce. The man who used his power with others to do enormous good. He changed England. He changed the world. Abolished slavery through the good gift of power. And another wonderful gift, sex. Yet the other thing all these gifts have in common, as we know, is we have corrupted them to our destructive ends. So we need today godly advice on how to remain pure and obedient in this area. So that's our first talk from the wise man of Proverbs. I've got 2 sons, both godly men, both single. Both will make great husbands. And I think, well, I hope, but probably not. One day when they're about to get married, one will say to me, Dad, you're married for 30 years, got a great marriage. What advice would you give to me as I embark on the adventure of marriage? I'd like them to say that. They probably won't, but I'd like that. I think I can say, well, guys, I can do nothing more than what this guy does in Proverbs 5, this godly father. With sons who are probably either just married or are married, he gives them advice. Now, I want to just give you, before we look at this, 2 assumptions behind this passage, one particular and one universal. The particular assumption is that both these guys, his sons, are married. Because in that world, they all got married. They weren't single people, like in Pakistan where I worked. They were all arranged, the marriages. They weren't single men. And if they were single, it was for some good reason. They were just not marriageable. That's not our world. That's not us. We marry by choice. Well, normally, some of us would love to choose to marry, but it hasn't happened. We'll hear words in a moment about drinking water from your own cistern. And that might seem like, to you guys, some here, like rubbing salt into a tender wound. You want to call it, Mike, I'd love to drink water from my cistern, but frankly, in my emotional desert, there are very few wells. I've asked girls out again and again. I've had so many knockbacks. I've been hurt too many times, and I can't bear the thought of a lifetime of singleness. And that's hard, and I've got no easy answers. The cost of following Christ is hard for all, and for some is the painful cost of singleness. Either never married or divorced. But I want to say to those who are single, there's joy in heeding the words of this Father, and tragedy in ignoring them. That's the first particular assumption. The second is universal, and that is that it's tough to remain sexually pure. A guy called Frederick Buechner wrote these words: "Lust is the ape that gibbers at our loins." Now, gibbers means to talk nonsense all the time. Tame him as we will by day, he rages all the wilder in our dreams by night. Just when we think we're safe from him, he raises up his ugly head and smirks. And there's no river in the world flows cold and strong enough to strike him down. Almighty God, why dost thou deck men out with such a loathsome toy? Now, the language is old-fashioned, but you get the point, don't you? Our fixation with sex defies belief. Of all our desires is the one that's gone most feral. We talk about animal lust. It ain't animal lust. Animals, the females normally invite sex 3 or 4 times a year. She flutters, the gorilla flutters her eyelids and wiggles her. There goes the happy gorilla. 3 or 4 times a year, then goes back to scratching himself and munching grass. That's just 3 or 4 times a year. For most blokes, it's 24/7. From puberty to senility, we're bombarded with thoughts about sex. So we need help, strength, grace, to how to cope with this powerful dimension of our maleness. There are few gifts so wonderful and few so corrupted by the fall as sex. So for a few minutes, let's just listen and learn from this wise father. You see, the law says don't commit adultery. Just don't do it. And I think you'd all say, that's right. I don't think there's a guy here today who wouldn't say, I want to please God in this area. I really do. But Mike, it's tough. I know you say don't, but how? Help me. That's Proverbs 5. You know the command. Here's the advice. Verse 1. Look how he begins. My son, pay